Okay. We're here live with Courtney Pfeiffer. Courtney is the dietitian for the Anchor program and a very dear friend. She's an expert in eating disorders. She's amazing. And tonight she's going to be presenting this webinar on how to develop kind of healthy food and body image issues within your home with your family. And I think that's a super important topic and very timely for us to discuss this during our month of April, which is all about the family and family rules. So Courtney will be expanding on that. So I will turn it over to you, Courtney.
Hi. Yes, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here. And this is a topic that I like to talk about a lot because I think parents get a lot of mixed messages and misinformation about how to raise healthy children and set a good example with eating. And then I think that the topic of body image development in children is not really talked about a lot. So
yeah, it's not talked about at all. It's one of my favorite topics because a lot of parents get messages from their pediatrician about their daughter or son's weight without really taking into account that children are always growing and you just can't always tell how they're going to end up. So I'm not going to tell my famous story about my son anymore, but I think everybody already knows it.
Yes, I have a slide about that very topic, so we'll talk more about that.
The other thing I just want to say is this is live, so if you have a question or a comment, just put it in the comment box and we can address it live. And if you're watching the recording, you can still put comments in and Courtney or I will respond to you when we get them. So yes. I'll let you go on and get started with the talk.
Okay. And feel free to jump in as always.
Yeah. Hard to stop me, isn't it?
I will share my screen now and pull up my presentation. Oh. Okay. Get my glasses on. Okay, so talking about creating a positive culture of food and body image in the household. And why is this important? Why do we need to talk about this? Because our relationship with food starts in childhood. And having a healthy relationship with food as a child really lays the groundwork for that relationship with food for the rest of your life. And this relationship with food can help children know their body cues of hunger and fullness and how to respond to them. It can help them intuitively give their body the variety of foods and nutrients that it needs. And it can help them learn food preferences and be open to trying new foods. It can help them avoid feeling that unjustified guilt that we can feel for eating certain foods or certain portions of food that society says is bad. And it can help them take care of their body through nourishment and be more connected with their body. And it can help them avoid disordered eating behaviors. And then our body image also starts in childhood. And having a healthy body image as a child, just like with food, can lay that healthy groundwork for a healthy body image for life. And this can help children have more self-confidence, be less influenced by the media and social pressures to look a certain way, and to not fight their natural shape with extreme measures of diet and exercise. A healthy body image can help children avoid that preoccupation with food and weight and avoid disordered eating behaviors. So this is just kind of what we're going to go through. I'm calling this helping without harming. And we're going to talk about the division of responsibility with feeding, accepting your child's normal size and shape, avoiding food restriction and negative body talk, being joyful and dependable about choosing your food, maintaining the division of responsibility with physical activity, and considering your whole child. And then I will give a list of resources at the end because this is a brief presentation, and this could be talked about for hours and hours. And there are many great books on this topic, so I will list some of those along with websites for more information. So this helping without harming is going to start with maintaining this division of responsibility with feeding in the household. And that division is that the parent be responsible for the what, the when, and the where of eating, and that the child is responsible for how much. Children actually do have a great ability to determine how much food they need before they are satisfied or full. And so, it's okay to allow them to do that. Family meals have been shown to be super important just in many aspects of one's life. And so children who have regular family meals have been shown to do better emotionally, socially, academically, and nutritionally, as well as with respect to avoiding overweight status, drugs, alcohol, and early sexual behavior. So family meals can be really helpful with all of those things in raising healthy children physically and emotionally.
Yeah, I read a study that showed that just having one family meal a week can reduce a child's risk for developing an eating disorder. So
wow.
I don't think we can really overplay how important this is. And family meals now are kind of going by the wayside, where kids are just foraging for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, sometimes the kids eat at one time and the parents eat at a different time. And it's just really important to offer a little bit of structure around this. Like you said, I love that the parent is responsible for what, when, and where, and then allowing the child to say how much.
Yeah. So no need to make 5 different things for 5 different people. You be the one responsible for what you're having for dinner, and the children can get on board with that. And yeah, like you brought up a good point that family meals can be incorporated if that's not something you're doing at all. Even starting to do it in small steps and doing 1 meal a week would be a great start, and be a great change. So it doesn't have to be dinner every single night to have a benefit.
And it doesn't have to be something that you cook. I mean, I know when I was working and had children, we had Friday night pizza night, and everybody was supposed to be on board for Friday night pizza night. It was movies and pizza and,
Yeah,
being together. So it doesn't have to be something that you have to cook, although that's a great experience for children too.
Yeah, I agree. And so the next helping without harming guideline is accepting your child's normal size and shape. So just like you were talking about, Dr. Ross, the 2 major causes of child overweight are misinterpreting a child's normal size and shape and labeling it overweight, and then as a result, imposing food restriction.
Yeah, basically putting your kid on a diet because the pediatrician says they are quote unquote overweight.
Yeah, so like you said, they're always growing and changing. So it's hard to pinpoint one phase of this growth and say they're overweight, when they might just be, about to have a growth spurt.
And I think that's particularly true about boys who have tremendous spurts in growth. And often they will kind of get a little chubbier before they go through a growth spurt. So unless your child is really, really obese, just having, being able to kind of identify from your family tree, what I call the genetic blueprint, being able to look at your family tree and say, okay, well, he looks like his grandfather, he looks like, somebody else in the family. And that way you can feel a little more comfortable that person may be growing into their normal adult body over time.
Yeah. And what this is, this is saying, and what we've shown is that this food restriction that we then impose because of this idea or diagnosis that this child is overweight actually can cause them to have this overweight problem more for life, when maybe it would have worked itself out, because, food restriction, and we'll talk more about it, can actually lead to overeating behavior. And just kind of hinder that relationship with food that we're trying to work on. So the idea is let them grow and change, that you can't predict a child's size and shape until he or she is grown. And restricting food intake or forcing activity can create the very problem that you're trying to avoid.
Yeah. That's really great. I love that.
So that leads into the next helping without harming guideline to avoid food restriction. So like you said, Dr. Ross, dieting in children is harmful. It can cause them to not meet their nutritional needs. It can slow growth and development. It can lead to overeating behavior, binge eating behavior, sneaking food, or eating in secret because they may be left hungry. They're also taught not to trust their own hunger cues because it's not on the set diet if they're hungry. And so that can cause these disordered eating behaviors. Maybe if they think they're not supposed to be eating something, then they might start sneaking that food when they're hungry. And that actually could lead to overweight status. And like we just said, it hurts their relationship with food because they start labeling these foods as good or bad based on what this diet says. And so then that brings in that guilt from eating that we don't want to associate. So we don't want to associate guilt with food ever. And that actually teaches them to do that and ignore their natural body cues, like we said. So yes, dieting in children is harmful. And I want to bring up the point that dieting in the household can also be harmful. Even if it's just one of the parents dieting, this can still be harmful because parents lead by example, and children are very aware of parents' eating habits. And I've learned this in my practice. Children can adopt the parents' food rules, food fears, and food messages that they see or hear in the household. And this can affect their relationship with food and body image in a negative way. So parents might be wondering, like, well, what do I do instead? I thought dieting was a healthy thing or whatever. Yeah. But instead, we encourage parents to teach their kids about variety and balance and moderation, promoting the message that all foods fit. There are no, quote, good or bad foods, including what we call fun foods or desserts in moderation. And including your child in the cooking process is a great way to help them build their relationship with food and get excited about trying new things and excited about eating what they make. So that's a great thing to do. And then I included this image from the website choosemyplate.gov because they are a great resource for some kids' materials and activities that do promote all of these things that we just talked about. And they actually have great recipes on there too that kids can easily help with. So the next helping without harming guideline, moving more into the body image topic, is to avoid negative body talk. And I think this is something that most people do. I
don't think people even realize that they're doing it. They just do I look fat? Do these jeans make me look fat?
Or I hate how my stomach looks in this or whatever. We're used to kind of just saying those things out loud. But again, kids are very aware of these messages and they take them in, and any of these messages can be adopted as something that they kind of remember forever for whatever reason. Yeah. So again, parents lead by example. the kids can adopt these negative body image views and messages, and then they can kind of turn that on their own body, you know, and start to act that way about their own body. And it can cause them to have a distorted image of their own body, or become preoccupied with certain body parts that maybe they've heard someone in the household talk about, for instance, stomach or thighs, that might cause them to be like a little bit preoccupied with
Like
those
maybe
body
my
parts.
thighs are too big too, if mommy's are, you know?
Yeah, exactly. So I encourage parents to avoid negative comments about any body. So that's about yourself, your child, friends, family, strangers on the street, celebrities. And this includes weight talk, you know, talking about how Aunt Janice lost 50 pounds or how so-and-so looks so much thinner. These seem like harmless, innocent conversation topics or
And
comments.
sometimes people think they're giving a compliment to say, oh, so-and-so's lost weight, they look so good. But it children don't always understand those words, and they think, oh, well, if I want to get approval, then I should lose weight too.
Exactly. Yes. And so they start associating weight loss or being thin with good, positive reinforcement. And maybe they're, you know, I mean, children don't need to lose weight, but maybe they really don't need to lose weight and they're already pretty thin. That can put them in a dangerous situation to try to lose weight.
I have one quick example. I'm
Yeah.
sure you have 100 too, but I had a patient who we saw for anorexia many years ago. And the thing that started her down the path of restricting was she was having French fries with her mother, and she told her mom, "Hey, I want to get more French fries." And her mom said, because her mom was a big dieter, said, "Haven't you had enough calories for one day?" And
Mm,
that was the beginning of her figuring out, trying to figure out, I don't even know what a calorie is, but obviously I need to figure this out so that I won't have too many. And she was, she developed a very severe form of anorexia from what many people would think is a very innocent comment, but
right.
in the context of her family and her family rules, it wasn't.
Yeah. And you never know, you know, when that switch could be flipped,
Mm-hmm.
which a lot of times in some person can be flipped from starting a diet or from just hearing a comment. Like
Yeah.
you said, that can really spiral. So we encourage people to focus on non-appearance compliments, especially with children, talking about, you know, how smart they are, how strong they are, kind, and about the wonderful things that our bodies do for us, as opposed to negative things about our bodies. So, you know, talking about how, you know, amazing it is that our heart beats, you know, however many times a day, or that our blood travels miles throughout our body every day, and our brains are controlling everything. So it's great to talk about the good things that our bodies do for us
Mm-hmm.
and why it needs the nourishment that we give it to do that. So, the next helping without harming guideline is to be joyful and dependable about choosing your food. So again, if you're the one being responsible for what is cooked, we just encourage you to have meals that you find rewarding to plan, cook, serve, and eat. So you're not dreading doing this for or with your family. That you try to include most food groups, and keep it simple. It doesn't have to be a gourmet meal. Like Dr. Ross said, it doesn't even have to be home cooked.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to please every family member every time. And it's important not to get pushy at mealtime, and let each family member pick and choose from the foods you put on the table and have some ownership in that. And then just briefly touching on physical activity and kind of how to go about that in the household. There should also be a division of responsibility with that, to keep it safe, to keep it healthy. And so kind of like with the food piece, the parent is responsible for some things like the structure, safety, and the opportunities for physical activity. And the child is responsible for how much, whether or not to participate, and the manner of moving. It is encouraged to limit screen time to encourage increased activity, but to let your child find the kind of movement that they enjoy, just like we encourage adults to do. It's finding something that you feel joyful about in terms of movement. It could be sports, dance, playing outside, or just walking. And just like with the food, it's important to be an example of healthy movement, which means avoiding excessive exercise, so not sending that message, and avoiding discussing how, it's exercising to lose weight or burn calories, but rather about moving your body, feeling good, increasing energy and strength as reasons that you want to promote physical activity.
One of the comments I hear all the time is like, you eat an ice cream and then people will say, oh, well, I got to go to the gym tomorrow to work this off. That is that's a rampant comment in our culture.
Yeah, it's like actually your body can handle some ice cream and you don't have to.
It can handle
metabolism can handle
that too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then finally, consider your whole child. So accept your child the way he or she is and expect them to be capable. Help your child develop in ways that really matter, like good character, common sense, effective ways of responding to feelings, problem-solving skills, ability to get along with others, etc., as opposed to their appearance and their weight. And then I just included a quote from Ellen Satter, who is an expert on this topic, and I get a lot of my resources from her material. But she says, feed and parent well, accept your child's size and shape, and avoid interference. And then what I say all the time is healthy behaviors lead to a healthy weight. So just to focus on the behaviors.
Yeah.
And then here are some resources if you do want more information on this topic. There are handouts that are available on these websites listed below. Fearlessfeeding.com, Ellen Satter Institute, the Choose My Plate website that I was talking about, and the National Eating Disorder Association website. And then there are a few books there listed by Ellen Satter. And then, of course, your anchor team.
Yes. We just, if you haven't seen it online, we just did an interview with Kate Martin, and she is in recovery from an eating disorder and also a mother. And she did a great job of talking about how she has been able to not allow her eating fears to get in the way of her son having a healthy relationship with food. It was very important, I think. If you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to go on the website or on the Facebook group and take a look.
Yeah, that was a great one. And she definitely does a great job of that.
Yeah.
She's always baking up goodies. Yeah, she's a great cook.
I don't know if you've seen that she has a regular column now, Courtney, called Kate's Kitchen.
On our Anchor Facebook page, I've seen it. Yes, that's great.
So she gives us the recipes and so on. All right, so let me just, so we can end this screen sharing.
Okay.
Just want to check to see if there are any questions or comments that have come through. Okay, so I do have one question. A lot of parents struggle with kids who they say are picky eaters. My kid won't eat vegetables, or my kid won't eat, tomatoes or whatever. How do you tell them to deal with that?
Yeah, so again, just kind of being a little bit more assertive in that you're the one that chooses, what the meal is going to be, but also offering a couple different choices to where a kid can have some responsibility in picking what they like and don't like. But it does take repeat exposure for a lot of foods for a child to develop a taste for it. So I would kind of just keep trying to expose those foods to them.
I actually read a study that says that it can take a couple of years for children's taste buds to fully develop. So
Oh,
just
wow.
because they turn away from a food, it doesn't mean that they don't like it. It's just that their particular taste buds haven't developed yet to be able to appreciate that. So I
Mhm.
think what you're saying is important. Just keep offering it to them, but
Yeah.
also giving them choice.
Yeah,
I
and that
oh,
and
go
that fearlessfeeding.com website actually has a nice little handout with guidelines about a picky eater.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's great. The other thing is, what if your child is picking up some negative body talk at school and they come home and say, I mean, I've actually had some mothers say to me, well, my daughter's friends are dieting and she thinks she needs to be on a diet. So how do you interact with them on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you can't help some things that are said like that. And it's just going to be about reinforcing those positive messages at home, talking to your kids so that they will open up to you about those things if it is said to them. And hopefully you can, counter those messages. And then sometimes, like I know a coworker was just talking to me today about how his daughter's friend, whose parents are on a vegan diet right now, was telling her that she's eating the bad kind of cheese.
Oh,
And the dad actually spoke to the parents and said, this can't happen. Like your lifestyle, like is your lifestyle. I support it, whatever. But
yeah.
your daughter can't be telling my daughter that she's eating bad cheese. So sometimes, you might have to speak to some parents.
Yeah. And the last question I have is about something we talked a little bit about, but so many parents are told that their child needs to lose weight, or I mean, I've had parents come to me and say, well, I'm worried that they're going to be teased at school or bullied at school because of their weight, or I'm worried that they're not going to be as healthy as, I want them to be. So how do you address their concerns about health, which is really a concern about size?
Right. Right. Because as we know, you can have health at many
Every
sizes, at
size,
every
yeah,
size.
at every size.
Yes. And so that kind of sounds like it might be the parent's own fear or judgment rather than, the child's. And I would just encourage them to try following these guidelines, to try, you know, just being that example of healthy eating with family meals. And when I say healthy, I mean balanced,
Variety,
eating
things that
variety,
yeah,
including desserts and modeling that that's okay. And trying to model that healthy activity behavior before jumping to any crazy, next step.
yeah. I think the bottom line is of what you've said is number one, modeling behaviors that are healthy. Number two, offering variety and some choice, but not to the degree where you're cooking multiple meals for each child. I don't eat eggs. Well, I don't eat bacon. I have patients who are doing that where they cook, 5 breakfasts.
Wow.
It's just not necessary.
No.
And then the kids grow up thinking that that's what they should be doing rather than anyway. So, and then modeling also as a family, eating together and being active together. So
Yeah.
those are the things. Now, if you yourself have grown up with, a dieting parent, or you've been dieting most of your life, you may need to get some help in getting started on this. So
Right.
that's what we're here for. That's what the Anchor team is all about. And I just want to remind everybody about the sweepstakes, which we started, where you can win one of 2 spots free of charge for the 10-week Anchor program, which will be coming up soon.
Wow.
So just keep an eye out for that. All you have to do is get a friend or family member to join our Facebook group, and you'll be entered into the sweepstakes to win that
Nice.
prize worth $2,500, actually.
Oh, wow. I didn't know about this.
It just
That's
went up.
exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. So anyway, again, if you have further questions for Courtney or about this topic, please put them in the comments section and we will answer them. And thanks for being with us, Courtney. This is great. It was a
Yeah.
great topic.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Okay.